You stand in line at the register, and the cashier says the total. You don't look at the receipt. You don't calculate the change in your head. You just tap your card and walk away, as if the number has nothing to do with you at all. The man behind you in line does the opposite. He's scrolling through his banking app right there at the register, lips pressed together, eyes darting across the screen. That's Ryan. You've known him for 15 years. And here's the question most people never manage to answer. Why do some people stop fearing numbers by their 40s, while others keep fearing them even with a six-figure income? The truth nobody wants to say out loud sounds like this. Wealth isn't a number. It's a state of your nervous system. And most people listening to this right now will never actually become rich, not because they don't earn enough, but because they're afraid to admit it isn't about the paycheck. It's about habits they defend like part of their identity. If that stings a little, say so in the comments. Let's see who's actually willing to admit it and who just closes the video. 8 years ago, you and Ryan sat in the same office at neighboring desks with the same salary in the same kind of envelope. The difference wasn't the number. The difference was what you thought about on the drive home. The first habit, money stops being the main subject of your thoughts. Back then, Ryan counted money constantly. On the subway, in the shower, over dinner. How much was left until payday? How much the car repair would cost? How much a friend spent on vacation, and why he couldn't manage that himself. Money was background noise that never switched off. You noticed something strange happened to you at some point. The more you organized your finances, automatic transfers, one review a month, instead of daily worry, the less you actually thought about money at all. Not because you had more of it, because a system existed that you could trust. Something shifts. Not in your salary, in how many thoughts you spend on it each day. The rule of the first level is simple. Money stops being the subject of your thoughts not when there's more of it, but when you stop making decisions about it every single day. The second habit, a financial cushion nobody talks about. Ryan loved talking about money out loud. A new phone, vacation debt, stocks that were about to take off. You almost never mentioned your finances except once, when your mother broke her arm and needed emergency surgery. You just transferred the amount that same evening. No panic, no calls to friends, no scrambling through the budget. The cushion sat exactly where it was supposed to sit, quiet, unwitnessed, with no story attached to it on social media. People who actually become rich don't brag about their reserve. They build it silently, month after month, setting aside a small percentage of every paycheck, even when it's inconvenient, even when they'd rather spend it all right away. Something shifts. Not in the balance, in the fact that you stop telling anyone what that balance is. The rule of the second level, a real safety cushion, is the one nobody knows about until the moment it's actually needed. The third habit, they stop comparing themselves to others. This was the hardest shift of all. For years, just like Ryan, you glanced at other people's cars, other people's vacations, other people's apartments. Every raise a friend got landed somewhere inside you like a small, unpleasant sting. Ryan still lives in that rhythm today, comparing his paycheck to his cousins, his car to his neighbors, his vacation to an old classmate's photos online. Every comparison quietly drains a little of his energy and a little of his resolve. You notice the shift the day a coworker got a bonus twice the size of yours, and you felt nothing but a mild, good for him. No envy. No panic. Just a fact. Something shifts. Not in other people's income, in the ruler you use to measure your own life. The rule of the third level. As long as you measure your life by someone else's ruler, you'll never actually see your own. Now here's the part worth staying for, because from here on, only a minority ever make it to the next level. The fourth habit, the value of time becomes bigger than the number in your account. At 26, you would have sold any evening for an extra $100 of freelance work. At 34, you turned down a well-paid project simply because it would eat into your weekends with your son. Ryan, in that same season, took a second side job because money is never really extra and lost 2 years of evenings they're never coming back. He didn't notice the loss. You did because you'd started counting hours, not just dollars. If this part is landing for you right now, if you're recognizing yourself or someone close to you in these scenes, go ahead and subscribe to this channel. Not for the sake of a number, but because what comes next covers exactly the levels that only a handful of people ever reach, and it's worth not missing in your feed. Something shifts. Not in the hourly rate, in the fact that an hour stops being something you'll sell at any price. The rule of the fourth level. Time is the one resource you can never refill, and once you truly understand that, money stops being the main currency of your life. The fifth habit, living below your means without performing it. There's a subtlety here. It isn't about denying yourself everything and bragging about it in conversation. Ryan swung between extremes, buying things on credit he couldn't afford to look successful, then suddenly going hard into strict frugality and announcing it to everyone, as if austerity were its own kind of status symbol. Both states are really just different forms of dependence on other people's opinions. You live quieter than that. Your car is a notch below what your income would allow. Your apartment has no magazine cover renovation. But not one person you know actually knows how much you set aside every single month, because you never turned your frugality into a performance. Something shifts. Not in the amount you spend, in the fact that your spending no longer needs an audience. The rule of the fifth level, real modesty in spending doesn't need spectators, and showing off your frugality is just another kind of spending. The sixth habit, a bigger income doesn't lead to bigger spending. When Ryan's salary went up, his car loan went up with it. Then a home renovation, since there's money now. Then subscriptions, restaurants, purchases that had seemed like unnecessary luxuries just 6 months earlier. His lifestyle grew at exactly the same speed as his income, meaning, in practice, nothing really changed except the numbers on the paperwork. When your income grew, you left your lifestyle almost exactly as it was, and sent the difference straight into that same reserve nobody knows about. From the outside, it might have looked like you were simply depriving yourself. In reality, you just stopped letting money dictate what your everyday life looked like. Something shifts. Not on the pay stub. In the habits that stay the same, even when the pay stub changes. The rule of the sixth level. Wealth doesn't belong to the person whose income grows. It belongs to the person whose spending doesn't grow along with it. The seventh habit. Long-term thinking instead of quick wins. Ryan believed in fast stories. A cryptocurrency that was about to double. A 3-night course that would teach him how to really earn. Every one of those stories started with excitement and ended in a quiet disappointment he never liked to talk about either. Meanwhile, you did the same boring thing month after month, year after year, setting money aside, investing small amounts steadily, never expecting a miracle in a single week. One day, Ryan asked you directly, "How did you end up saving so much? You didn't even earn more than me?" You answered him with one sentence, "I just never stopped." He laughed like it was a joke. It wasn't a joke. Something shifts. Not in the size of one lucky trade, in the number of years you're willing to wait patiently for a result. The rule of the seventh level, quick wins feed your ego today, but long-term thinking feeds a future that arrives whether or not you're ready for it. Now 8 years after that office, with the matching desks and matching paychecks, you and Ryan are living in two completely different realities, even though the gap in your actual incomes was never that large. The difference was never the number in the envelope. The difference was 7 habits you chose day after day, while Ryan chose something else. The wealth almost nobody talks about out loud isn't a yacht or a house on a hill. It's the quiet in your head when the cashier says the total. It's a cushion nobody ever hears about. It's the ability to stop measuring yourself with someone else's ruler. It's an hour that's worth more than any deal. It's modesty with no audience. It's spending that never chases income. And it's the patience that outlasts every quick win. You can close this video right now and keep living exactly like you did yesterday. Or you can pick just one of these 7 habits and start with it tonight. Not Monday, not New Year's, tonight. The difference between you 8 years from now and Ryan 8 years from now was never decided by a paycheck. It's decided by this choice.